How can you get rich in Bitcoin? The fastest way is to share experiences with like-minded people and friends, because true wealth is not priced in terms of numbers, of dollars or sats, but in terms of the number of friends you have and the quality time you can share with them. Camp Nakamoto 2025 is an excellent opportunity for this. The event is a family-friendly Bitcoin retreat and think tank in New Hampshire on literally a private island. You get to spend 4 days with your favorite Bitcoin voices, and you will make a lot of high-quality, high-signal friends. We have a lineup of amazing, incredible, great speakers in Bitcoin, as well as ones yet to be announced. Myself will be there, as well as many other recognizable faces in Bitcoin, and a lot of other names that we're working on that are we haven't yet announced. So great speakers are coming, and typically you might get 5 minutes with one of these incredible speakers at another conference, in a passing book signing, or in a hallway. But at Camp Nakamoto, you get hours and hours with these people doing incredible activities. So you're not just getting to say hello to them, but you're getting to build relationships and community with some of the best minds in all of Bitcoin. You'll be doing amazing activities with these people too. Campfires, games, boat tours, hiking, swimming, fantastic food and meals, water skiing, water tubing, baseball, volleyball, kickball, wine tasting, cigars, a color war, music, water balloon fights, and so much more. It is truly basically like a very fun, family-friendly summer camp. And additionally to all the fun stuff, there will be daily think tanks and group discussions: how to grow your business, how to buy more Bitcoin, macro insights from off camera from some of the best minds in the whole industry, Bitcoin education, self-custody Bitcoin workshops, multi-sig vault workshops, and Bitcoin tutorials, plus so much more that I can't even fit into this little promotion here. If you are a family man looking for an excuse to go to a Bitcoin conference, but aren't able to encourage a family to go to some hotel room in some other big city, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for you to bring your wife, bring your family, bring your husband, bring your kids, and hang out. You can have Bitcoin events and think tanks in the morning, and then the afternoon be able to share time with your family in one of the most beautiful places in all of New England with some of the brightest minds in Bitcoin and their families as well. If you're a business professional looking to take your 7-figure business into an 8-figure business and beyond, bring your questions and insights, and some of the best entrepreneurs in all of Bitcoin will be able to guide you and can talk through what your ideas are, and we can brainstorm how to 10x your business. If you're just tired of going to Bitcoin events being in a corporate setting with hectic and fast schedules, join us at Camp Nakamoto 2025. Slow down and actually get to know the people in Bitcoin, not just as personalities, but as friends. Bring your family member, your friend, your pastor, coworker, whomever. You might help them understand Bitcoin better by bringing them to this event. It might be much more along their speed, right? A lot less, a lot slower paced, a lot more relaxing. So no matter who you are, no matter what you're looking for, this opportunity will not last long. There are very few events like this in the world. As far as we know, this is the first Bitcoin event to ever happen on a private island. Very few people will have bragging rights of having attended this event, as literally it being a private island, we can't fit 10,000 people, nor even 500 people, okay? There are less than 100 tickets left available for this event, and they will go quickly. To compensate for the increasing demand of these tickets, prices will be increasing in the near future. So please secure your spot to Camp Nakamoto 2025 right now. The link is in the description below this video. You can buy a ticket there directly. Or check out my website, lukebtc.com, where you can join my Retire on Bitcoin community for future events. We've had wonderful events all around the world: Costa Rica, South Africa, all across the United States and Europe as well. And now we're having this event coming up too. By joining my Retire on Bitcoin community at lukebtc.com, you get first notice, ticket discounts, and secured premium seating at all of these events and more. So please check out campnakamoto.com, check out the link in the description, and check out my Retire on Bitcoin community at lukebtc.com to be updated on these wonderful events. I hope to see you there personally. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll see you on a private island in one of the most beautiful parts in all of America. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Bitcoin discussion. Myself and two wonderful guests here today. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin. We're going to be talking about the bullish case for Bitcoin, why Bitcoin is the future, as us three and probably you watching also believe. I think we're going to have a bit of a unique perspective on it. We have Jeff and Angelo. Angelo is a former technology entrepreneur and now is the director of a summer camp, of all things, with the private island. And Jeff is a big Bitcoiner too. He's got one of the best Bitcoin meetups in the entire United States, in my personal opinion. It was the first Bitcoin event I went to ever speak at. So Jeff's a good friend of mine. We know each other, man, almost 2 years now. That's crazy how short, how long it feels, but how short it actually is. So anyway, some great guys here. We're going to be talking about Bitcoin, giving some unique perspectives on that from, you know, myself, but even more so them, the entrepreneurial perspective. And then we're also going to be talking about how you can get involved, how you can take your place in Bitcoin history, how you can be involved, how you can meet lots of prominent Bitcoin speakers, which we'll get to that more down the line with an awesome event and festival that we'll discuss later on in the show today. But without further ado, Jeff and Angelo, how about you guys introduce yourself a little bit? What's your Bitcoin story? How did we how have we ended up here? Angela, how about you go first?
Thanks, Luke. Oh, I'm going first. All right. Well, thank you, Luke. Sure. Well, so my Bitcoin story starts really at the beginning of the pandemic. It was that period of February, March into April 2020 when COVID was going crazy, and that was for me the moment where I was like, okay, the world is changing, something's up. And it also happened to be the moment that I was exiting my last tech venture before I got into this summer camp thing. And so the between the pandemic and between me just getting out of that venture, I had a lot of time in my hands. And I had heard about this Bitcoin thing, um, but now I had the time to explore it. And I started going down that rabbit hole and I haven't stopped since. So that's where my Bitcoin story started then. And honestly, the first three and a half years of my story was entirely online, digital for me. You know, learning, listening to podcasts, watching videos, listening to sailors speak. Um, and about a year ago, Jeff, was it about a year ago that first meetup that I
Yeah.
came to? It was about a year ago. I realized, or actually, my wife and son pointed out to me that if I didn't meet some Bitcoiners in real life, I was going to drive them crazy, right? So I went and looked for some way to meet some Bitcoiners in real life, and to your point, Luke, I found one of the greatest meetups by pure luck. And luck enters in a lot to my Bitcoin journey. But anyway, by pure luck, the one I found was Mass Adoption. And I went to my first meetup. I think it was right about a year ago, this time last year. And I met Jeff and I met those guys. And, meeting Bitcoiners in real life for me was, that was special to finally, um, I was pretty convicted on the entire premise before that, but finally to see some other people in real life that believed and thought about the monetary system and the debasement of money and the Fed and how Bitcoin is a solution to so many problems. That was special, and so yeah, that's how I
Awesome.
get here.
Jeff, introduce yourself and introduce us to that awesome sweater you have. Hold it up a bit. Show us that. That's great.
Let me see if I
Freedom.
freedom and that's
Yes,
Braveheart.
I noticed.
So
Yeah.
kind of cool.
So Jeff,
Oh, sure.
tell us
Uh,
about you.
yes.
Move your camera back up a little bit more.
2020, I connected with a local guy who was running the Boston meetups, and we had thrown an amazing event with Greg Foss and Larry Lepard. And he contacted me and said, "How did you throw this event with those great guys?" From there, we decided to start mass adoption. And then you, Luke, you were our first speaker to in our speaker series. You were the first speaker in the speaker series
I
that we
thought.
now do quarterly. So you
Well,
helped
well,
us
thank
launch
you.
mass adoption.
Yeah,
Oh no, BJ Dix. I think
yeah.
BJ
I
might have
think I was
jumped in.
second.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I'd second. Well, in my heart, you were first. No offense, BJ. But anyway, so from them we have an amazing group up in the New England area, and we meet monthly, speaker series quarterly, and we throw an annual event that we can talk about later. Um, And just touching on what Angelo had said, it's so important to get out and actually meet Bitcoiners in real life. I ask people to at least newbie or OG come to a meetup and start connecting with Bitcoiners in real life. So I suggest that to everyone. And thank you, Angelo. Angelo came to the meetup, told me what he did, told me about the island and the camp he runs, and of course the light bulb went off in my head immediately. And ever since then, I hounded him about some ideas, and we'll talk about
Yeah.
the ideas later. But it incubated
Yeah.
very
Yep.
early on
So
in my head. So I'm happy to be here.
So yeah, what Jeff's referring to, of course, everyone, in case you don't know, is that Mass Adoption is putting on an event next year, a really big one. There's a private island involved with lots of incredible Bitcoin thinkers, speakers, content people, lots of the names you've already heard mentioned, and lots of more names that have been confirmed, we've not announced yet, as well as ones that we're still working on. We'll get to that more later in the show here. But I guess just to give my perspective of why I think everything you said, Jeff, is true, is that, in Bitcoin, there's a lot of friendly debate between people. Some people say, "Oh, Bitcoin conferences are a scam; they're not worth it, etc." And I think there is a spectrum, right? On one end, I can see the argument why people should go to Bitcoin events, just like Angelo and Jeff and now myself, all three are saying. Like, I think there's a very real argument for that. There's a big benefit getting actually to meet people in the flesh that you have this same borderline obsession with. I think that's a big value add. I think it's a big value add for family members. Number one, because you get to scratch that itch instead of hounding your wife or your kid or your parent or your coworker Bitcoin all day every day. You get to get it out of your system. Which actually, ironically, I think in my personal experience, having worked with dozens and dozens of people with their family Bitcoin treasuries and strategies at Bitcoin Advisor, my experience there is that that's very true, right? Like, ironically, talking about Bitcoin less, or at least less forcefully with loved ones, sometimes actually leaves some more breathing space for them to think it through. So on one hand, I definitely see that argument where like there is a very real needed space for that. Now on the other end, which I think Angelo and Jeff, if I remember correctly, we all have talked about extensively in private, is on the other end, some people say these events are really expensive. They're a waste of money, etc. Because I'm going to spend $8,000. I'm going to spend a couple grand on going to some conference because these things add up, right? If you go to a big Bitcoin conference, maybe the ticket's $500 to $1,500, and you have the flights, and you have the hotels, and of course all the food's expensive. It adds up really quick, and people before they know it are spending 2,000, 6,000, or more on some event. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've gone to those events before, but the reality is that for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. And there is a bit of diminishing returns where you could watch the content online for free. And so then you have this kind of middle of the road here where you want all the benefits of the in-person connections, but you want to spend a whole day with somebody, right? You want to spend a whole day with Mark Moss. You want to spend a whole day with me. You want to spend a whole day with Angela and Jeff, right? You want to spend actual time with them and not 5 minutes at a book signing booth in some sort of mega conference venue. So there's that nuance to everything. Everything has its place. But I'm really excited for what we're doing here. Now, um, this kind of idea, I actually think gets to a larger perspective that I think this is the future of Bitcoin networking and conferences, right? As Jeff, you initially invited me out to Mass Adoption to talk about how we have quote unquote less in common with the near future in the past. I think the same thing is true with Bitcoin, that so far in Bitcoin's history, all the conferences have been these big corporate events. And I personally think in the future, Bitcoin events, conferences are going to transition more to these private networking events in nature, in beautiful places. If the speakers you want to come are wealthy enough in Bitcoin, like why would they go to some more hotel room for another, conference in some big metro city when they would go somewhere beautiful? So anyway, that's kind of my thought, is that I think even within the Bitcoin conference and networking scene, we have less in common with the near future, let's say 4 to 8 years, than the past. But anyway, Angelo, Jeff, what are your thoughts? How did these kind of networking events, mass adoption, and in general, accelerate Bitcoin adoption, business connections, networking, and everything else? What do you think the future of Bitcoin and the future of these Bitcoin networking events is going to be?
I agree with a lot of what you said. We've thrown two freedom festivals over the past couple of years, and we've intentionally kept the ticket price under $100 because we wanted to make it a reasonable event for people to go to. But that being said, this event that we're going to talk about a little bit later on is what I think, and I agree with you, what the future of Bitcoin gatherings will be. Our event is, we envision a more of a Bitcoin lifestyle networking type of thing as opposed to sitting in a big cold room on a chair listening to speakers for 5 hours and stuff like that. So we're doing something where people can engage and interact all day long with their favorite Bitcoin speakers, their favorite Bitcoiners. So I do think it's more going to be a lifestyle. We're starting to see that, like the having party in El Salvador was lifestyle.
Mm,
Madeira was more lifestyle. So we're beginning to see that, and that's what we intend to do with our event.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. And um, the angle that I would take in answering your question, Luke, is when you were laying out the question, it was based on this, this point that you were making, that sometimes people will go to an event, they'll spend a lot of money, and they'll come away and they'll wonder, did they get their money's worth? Was it a valuable use of time? And I think the answer to that often has to do with a little examination of, well, why did you go in the first place? Like, what was the purpose of going? And I can't speak for anybody else, but in my experience, when I'm being really honest with myself about that, am I going to learn something? Maybe. Maybe there's something that I didn't know that I hope to know. But I think at this point, for those of us who are hardcore Bitcoin, it's not like we're going to learn anything that's going to make us harder core Bitcoin. So it's not about learning. It's about that camaraderie. It's about being part of a community. It's about being around like-minded people. And yeah, sure, learn something along the way and develop connections. But those connections, another way to look at it is oftentimes at those kinds of events, the most meaningful things that happen for people aren't sitting in the audience listening to a speaker. It's out in the hallway, in the buffet lines, the conversation that gets struck up. And so, in some sense, the event that Jeff and I have been talking about is all buffet line. Like, it's all that. It's all hanging out with like-minded people and letting the conversations develop organically, and letting those conversations, not just the conversations, the connections happen in a setting that is just conducive to people making human connections. So that was the
Can
thinking
I
there.
add two things to that? One is, I mean, Luke, you and I are living proof. You were kind enough to fly down to one of our events a couple of years ago, and you ended up spending 10 days sleeping on my couch, a couple months ago. So, so meaning that we have formed a relationship. I consider you a friend. And so get out, you're not going to really cement these relationships until you meet people in person. That's the first thing. So I recommend it to everyone. Secondly, Luke, you touched upon it quickly about, giving some breathing space and maybe letting your, so our events are family friendly. We did it this year at our festival. We had parkour courses. We had all sorts of stuff for kids. Angelo came this year for his first year, and he brought his wife. Um, and so the event we're talking about is family oriented, and that's what we want. We want Bitcoiners to bring their family, their kids, their wife, or a woman bring their husband. I'm not,
Statistically
can't
speaking.
protect that one. Um, right,
But I got to
right.
say, Jeff, I got to jump in on that, because the point, you're absolutely right. My wife came to Freedom Fest last year, and
That's right.
not and in the car ride home, you know, I kind of dragged her there thinking, oh my God, she's going to think I'm in a cult, blah, blah, blah. And total opposite experience. So the woman who told me, you're going to go find some Bitcoiners in real life, like, a year earlier, and was saying, this was her first event. This was her first introduction. And she came away from it with like, wow, she was like, that was awesome. And the thing that she said that I was most, kind of gratified by, the thing that she said was, those just seem like good people. That's what she said. Yeah, and I really liked that.
So that's very important because, you know, ramming it down your family's throat, there's a huge wall up there, no matter how many times you try to ram it, right? So, you know, let our events and events like ours do the heavy lifting, because they're going to come there and they're just going to be amazed at the feeling, the vibe, the energy, the education, the love that permeates throughout the whole
Yeah.
event. So that's the other thing I wanted to say about events and our event
Yeah, I
committee.
think that's great perspective. And if I could ask something to that that's perhaps a bit more general too, is that I think a lot of this comes back down to tangible versus intangible benefits and costs, right? We're not hating on
Mm,
the big conferences that people spend, thousands and thousands of dollars to go to. We're not at all. Like that's a very real use for people. And honestly, for people that are newer to Bitcoin that maybe don't know as much, like you were referring to, Angelo,
It's,
that's a
right, it's
necessary
necessary.
cost. It makes perfect sense. But for people like us that have spent maybe 500, 1,000 hours reading articles, watching podcasts and audiobooks or whatever, it's diminishing returns, right? And so, there's a nuance to everything. The intangible benefit somebody that's new to Bitcoin is going to get from that much larger tangible cost of the ticket is it's a much different, let's say, risk reward scenario for each, right? And now, this is something that people that eventually become my clients ask me with my personal work, which is separate from this event here at Bitcoin Advisor. It's a big question people ask is, okay, Luke, you talk about how your average client stacks 50% more Bitcoin in the first year. Like, how is that possible? Try to wrap their head around tangibly. But like I explained to them, it's relatable to here because most of the benefit is intangible, right? Peace of mind, confidence, and an actual plan that people can follow. Like most of the value benefit in all of these things, and Bitcoin, most businesses, and including Bitcoin itself, is intangible, right? The big value add from being in Bitcoin, it's not the tangible number go up, it is, but it's also the intangible life go up, right? I feel way richer. Yeah, sure, because Bitcoin tripled in the last year. It's probably going to triple the next year. But I also feel way richer because, like, basically every year, my network of friends, my network of business connections is like going up by 30, 100, 200% a year, right? Like, Jeff, I would have never met you. Right,
Exponential growth.
and it's hope, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know about you guys, but I feel hope because of the
right.
existence of Bitcoin, that in its absence, man, I don't know what I'd be feeling, but I feel tremendous hope because Bitcoin exists. And I mean, that's a pure
Right.
intangible. I mean, how are
Right.
you gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
quantify
That's the
hope?
funny thing. Yeah.
But boy, do I feel it.
Even if, no, you're fine. I interrupted
Yeah.
you. Even if, to your point, Angelo, it's like, I have to reframe myself in that context all the time, right? Is that, if someone were to give, right, like you, Angelo, or like if someone's going to come to us and say, I'll give you $50 million right now, but you're going to die at, 8 p.m. tonight and you can't leave it for your kids. Like, would you take the money or not? Most people probably not. And so then the question is, well, is 5 hours of your time worth $50 million? I mean, well, yes, no, it's a little disingenuous, but my larger point is that even if you don't experience full on, I'm a multi fiat millionaire, I have 100 years worth of salary in the bank via Bitcoin, even if you don't experience that for 1, 2, 3, 5 cycles in Bitcoin, 4 years apiece, like you're going to get many more years now today of greater peace of mind, greater purpose, greater energy. I don't know about you guys, but I work way harder now that I'm on a Bitcoin standard than a fiat standard, even though Bitcoin's supposed to free your time. I work harder now. It's kind of the funny thing.
Yeah. Well, because you have purpose. I
Luke,
think
we've
Bitcoin gives you purpose.
we've put on all our meetups, all our speaker series, all our festivals. We have an amazing team, and everyone works for free. And we've
Yeah.
done all of this where people are contributing their time, because it's so meaningful to everyone in everyone's life. So
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah. And I'd be remiss if I didn't just throw out one other intangible that's been huge in my life because of Bitcoin. And maybe it's related to the hope thing, but I gotta say, putting my net worth into an unconfiscatable, the hardest asset in the world. Um, the feeling, and I don't care what your net worth is, just the feeling that your time and energy and human life force has been poured into something that nobody can take away unless you choose to give it to them, right? That concept, I mean, that is a peace of mind that I don't even think you can explain it to somebody until
You
they've
can't, but
experienced it
that
themselves.
takes time for maturity in the Bitcoin space to fully
Agreed.
grasp
Yeah.
and
No,
appreciate that.
and yeah, you're right. Maybe you can't even explain that to a newbie because it's
But
true.
but on
Even if you try to explain it, it's
but on the flip side, Angelo, I just say to my newbie people, look at the inflation rate is, let's say, 10% being generous. That's your US dollars being debased every year. And it's going to zero. There's never been a fiat currency that hasn't gone to zero. We're towards the end of the line. No one knows the exact timing. Why not invest your money or part of your net worth in a deflationary, non-confiscatable, non-manipulative uh, uh, money? And so it's very simple. Do you want to lose 10% a year of your money sitting in the bank, or do you want to flip it and put it in the exact opposite um, monetary technology? That's all. So it's simple. You don't have to understand everything you said. You choose lose 10% a year and tread water and be in quicksand, or put it into this, can't be confiscated, can't be manipulated, and you sleep very well at night, unless you have margin and you don't sleep as much. But
Yeah, great points all around. If I can tie it back full circle to the joke we were making about the spouse, the family, the kids, the coworker going to Bitcoin event, I think this tangible, intangible, practical number go up versus intangible optimism and hope. I think that really relates back to that, because a lot of people all the time ask me, and I'm sure both you guys too, why does my pastor not get Bitcoin? Why does my wife not get Bitcoin? Why does my coworker? Why does my uncle? Why does my son? Why don't they get it? I just want to shake them, right? But my thought on that, and I think where this comes in handy, is that the people adopting Bitcoin right now are extremely disagreeable, right? So if we have a bell curve, right, you have the bell curve meme. Like pretty much everyone in Bitcoin is wildly disagreeable. And of course, what is the most disagreeable demographic? Middle-aged men, typically, right? I mean, think about it, right? Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, Natalie Brunell, Caitlin Long, Greg Foss, Greg Foss. Jeff Booth might be the only only one in Bitcoin that's not disagreeable. Anyway, yeah.
Well, he's so nice that he's not disagreeable. Yeah. He's such a great way of.
And I'm not saying disagreeable in necessarily combativeness, but I mean, yeah. So
right.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. And the personality.
Right. So my exact point is that your family member may not be getting Bitcoin just because Bitcoin is not old enough yet that it is fitting or clicking with their personality type. And so I think the big benefit by bringing loved ones, coworkers, whomever to these kind of events is that you get the other side, right? Like your family member doesn't want to hear about the macro charts. They don't want to hear about the Japanese yen carry trade, right? They don't want to hear about these things because they're not disagreeable personality types. And so if you bring them to a primarily social event instead of a big conference event where it's all people in suits and ties with charts behind them on a big screen, I think the very medium of the event is the message, and that really might resonate with those people in a way it might not have otherwise, because it's an intangible pitch for Bitcoin, an indirect pitch for Bitcoin, not a direct one. So anyway, that's just that's the way I kind of look at it, and I think that's yet another reason why less in common with the near future and the past. I think that's why we're going to see more and more of these Bitcoin events transition to that, as the total share of personality traits in Bitcoin trends away from a high disagreeable ranking to a lower disagreeable ranking. Right? I think the very nature of the kind of person new to Bitcoin will incentivize this shifting, let's say, demographic and events. So anyway, it's just kind of my 2 cents there. My 2 cents. Yeah.
That's cool thought, Luke. I like that.
Yeah. Right.
2 cents. Beautiful.
So, okay, I think we've been dancing around it enough. Hopefully we've got enough background for everyone watching, but let's talk about this event. Now, we've been working on this event for like 6 months already. This was like the brainchild of us three and Need Creations over a sushi boat, which was a very good sushi boat. And the event is a bit ways away. This is in October of 2025. However, I can assure you this is going to be an awesome event. I've been to 13, 14 Bitcoin conferences and retreats so far this year. I'm going to 2 more for the rest of 2024, and this is going to be a really good one. This one in New England, New Hampshire here. So I know it's a bit far away. I know most people are going to procrastinate buying their tickets and thinking about it, but the beauty of this event is how secluded it is, how private it is, and how high signal it's going to be. So even though it's a ways away, let's give the pitch for the event. Jeff, you wanna take it away and give the summary, or maybe Angelo? I don't know which of you wants to explain what the idea of this is.
Yeah, I'll do a quick introduction, then Angelo, because he is the director of the camp. Just again to reiterate, this is the next progression of Bitcoin events in our eyes. It's a lifestyle event. You're going to be able to spend 3 to 4 days shoulder to shoulder, basically sleeping in the same bunk or next to them in the next bunk, with all great Bitcoin educators and the Bitcoin community. So it's a lifestyle event, but I'll kind of let Angelo kind of follow up as to how we actually have
Yeah,
this option.
Yeah, so let's. And it's going to take a little. Let me lay it out. So, so we're talking October 2025, and the event we're going to announce right now the location of the event. The location of the event is on a little island named Sandy Island, which is on. It's on a lake. It's on Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire. So, if you're unfamiliar with Lake Winnipesaukee, first of all, figure out how to spell it. I can't do it. But if you, Winnipesaukee, it's in New Hampshire. It's the biggest lake in the state. And there's 250 islands on the lake, and one of them is this island, Sandy Island Camp, and it's a 66 acre. And I'm biased. I got to tell you, one of the blessings of my life, at this stage of my life, is I get to focus my time and effort and energy only on things that I care about and that matter to me. And those things are there's 3 of them. It's pretty simple. It's Bitcoin, it's my family, and it's probably not in that order. Probably
as it should be.
And yeah,
Good catch,
it's family, it's Bitcoin. But the third one is this place, Sandy Island Camp on Lake Winnipesaukee. It's been a big part of my life ever since I was a little kid. I started going there with my family in 1980. I was 8 years old.
That's almost as old as the modern American dollar system. That's only 9 years younger. Wow.
Thanks, Luke.
I'm not making fun of how long ago that is. I'm making fun of how young the dollar is.
I know. Yeah, fair enough. Good point. So started going in 1980. Anyway, and I'm not going to bore you with how special this place is to me personally, but we have because it's been so special to me personally and to my family. This opportunity arose a few years ago after being a participant, somebody who goes there as a camper, and it's a unique camp experience in the regular part of the summer, because it's for entire families. It's not just a kids camp. It's not a place where parents send their kids off to go to overnight camp and they do their thing. This is a facility that's designed for entire families to go and enjoy the facility together. And that's what I did as with my family growing up with my parents. Later in adulthood, when I got married and had kids, that's what my wife and I did. And then in that same period of time, 2020, 2021, the opportunity popped up. I had sold out of this tech business, and I was friends with the executive director of the facility that's actually owned by the YMCA of Greater Boston. It's in New Hampshire, but it's owned by the YMCA of Greater Boston. I was friends with the executive director who ran all the camps for the YMCA. And she told me, hey, the director position is open up at Sandy Island, and if that's something you'd like to do. And it just fit with my lifestyle at the time. So I took the role. It's been a blessing and an honor and a privilege to be able to be a steward of that place these last few years. I started in 21. My first summer was 21. We just completed my 4th summer working up there. That's a glorious place to bring my son and to be able to spend the whole summer with him. And so when talking with Jeff and with you, Luke, the one of the things that I say about the people who go about Sandy Island, and I've said this to Jeff, is Sandy Island is, and the people who go there are Bitcoiners that don't know it yet. And I believe that Bitcoiners are Sandy Island people who don't know it yet. They need to get there to see it and experience it. And I just think that setting, it's and you know, on the one hand, we could call it a private island. Well, it is. It's a pretty rustic private island. It's a camp setting. And so that, you know, you got to be upfront about that. But there's something about the magic that happens there when you get a group of people, like-minded people, into that gorgeous natural setting. And they have an opportunity. There's something about being on an island that, you know, even if it's not that far away from you know, the hustle and bustle of the mainland, it feels
Right.
like it's far away. You feel the isolation in a good way. Now you're with a group of like-minded people in a special, unique setting, and that's when magic happens. And so the kinds of things that we've been talking about on this podcast, about the kinds of connections and the kinds of relationships that we want to foster, this place, I've seen it my whole life. This fosters that. And so to do that for Bitcoiners basically became a dream of mine, and it became, and you know, obviously in talking with you and others, it's resonated for a lot of people. So we said,
Yep.
jumping in, we're doing it. And now the island runs its main season in the months of July and August, right? And it's packed, and it's always packed. We have been 100% full for the last several seasons in July and August. But we have the opportunity to rent out the island in October, in beautiful fall, autumn, New Hampshire, leaves changing, incredibly gorgeous setting. And it's a scarce thing that we have here. The island is only so big; it only holds so many people, and so we want but we want to make it available to Bitcoiners, and that's the vision. That's what we're talking about.
No. Well, I think.
That sounds great, Angelo. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, I think that's part of the beauty is the variety of kind of events that you find in Bitcoin, right? Like, you know, I'm very grateful that I've been able to travel to a good number of them, and you know, I have my little Retire on Bitcoin community on my website, lukebtc.com, where people can sign up and go on these trips or whatever with me. You know, we've done some that are literally, you know, 5-star hotels, some, you know, like Michelin star restaurant kind of things, like extreme luxury, to crazy stuff like we were in the middle of a jungle in Costa Rica in a treehouse, four guys and I, right? Or shark cage diving, or going to see penguins, or going hiking. I just last week I came back from Montana. We had a 4-day retreat out there. It was me, Lavish, Preston Pish, and another 40 or so Bitcoiners. It's just hiking, right? And I think that's part of the beauty is the variety of these things. So there's a time and place for the fancy stuff. There's a time and place for the conferences with 5,000 people. And there's a time and place for the private island retreat with 100 or less quality Bitcoiners to do that talk. So I guess to get into the specifics a little bit of what the unique aspects of this event are for everyone watching, essentially what we're saying is that this is going to be a 3 to 4 day event on a private island, which is Sandy Island here in New Hampshire. It's not too far from the airport, right? There are lots of airports in the area. You know, that's something that we're going to help organize. People fly in, they get picked up, ride sharing, all that stuff is taken care of. And we get to the island, and it's basically going to be 3 to 4 days of loosely organized fun, right? So every day there's going to be some events, right? So maybe one day there's going to be a morning session that's entrepreneurship and business focused. And maybe another day there's going to be a Bitcoin self-custody focus. And maybe another day it's going to be a Bitcoin content creation focus, right? You know, each day there might be, you know, a couple sessions that are more themed to one aspect for another, right? And this largely depends on you, right? This largely depends on what are the demographics of the kind of people that sign up for this event. I expect a lot of business professionals, maybe with, you know, 6, 7, 8-figure businesses are going to be coming to this. Maybe we have some events or breakout events that are for them. You know, if we have churches, pastors, or missionaries that are wanting to learn about Bitcoin and adopt it for their organization. We might have things for that. So there will be Bitcoin leveraging educational stuff in a kind of a think tank kind of fashion, right? Which, of course, for those watching this that are business people, that might be a write-off. Maybe ask your tax professional. But that's down the line. The more important thing is that yes, it is a Bitcoin quote unquote conference. It is a Bitcoin event, but the larger context of it is that then the afternoons and the evenings there's some sort of fun organized event, right? So maybe you come, you get your Bitcoin nerd stuff out of your system in the morning. Then in the afternoon, you spend time with your family. You spend time hanging out with these other Bitcoiners as if they're your family. And then, of course, in the evenings, that's when the wine comes out and the s'mores around a campfire come out, right? So, anyway, that's basically the pitch.
Exactly right, Luke.
Luke, that was said beautifully. I'll just add a little bit on to that. What we envision is in the morning we do Bitcoin stuff. And just think about it. This is only going to be about 100 tickets, so it is truly scarce. Not as scarce as 21 million Bitcoin, but it's scarce. But if you are lucky enough, I'm not saying that pejoratively. If you're lucky enough to get on and be involved in this, you'll be spending mornings with 80, 90 people with amazing Bitcoin educators that you see all throughout YouTube and Twitter. You will have direct access and interaction with this group. Is going to become like a new family. So you'll have direct access to high level educators and speakers. And then in the afternoon, you'll be with your family or you'll be by yourself, whatever it is. But you'll be doing stuff like boating, hiking, camp stuff, arts and crafts for the kids,
Yep.
canoeing, kayaking. And then, of course, you're right. At night, we envision s'mores around a campfire. My goal is I'm going to try to speak with Jeff Booth. I know he plays the guitar, and I heard him on a podcast talking about wanting to play around a campfire. So this would be perfect.
He's very good.
But anyways, it's going to be a myriad. Yeah. So I'm looking at Bitcoin stuff in the morning, interacting with great, smart, intelligent, kind Bitcoiners. In the afternoon, you do actual camp stuff.
With those
night,
Bitcoiners, right? You're playing
right with those Bitcoiners,
with the Bitcoiners. You're going for a kayak ride around the island with these guys and their families and getting to know them. And
could I, in a very friendly way, could I slightly disagree with you, Jeff? I know what you mean. I know what you mean that the 100 tickets aren't quite as scarce as 20 million Bitcoin. Like, I get that. I know that. I like. It's true, right? At the same time, though, like every person is different, right? And to a certain extent, yes, maybe having a relationship with another Bitcoiner is not as scarce as Bitcoin itself, but having a relationship with a specific Bitcoiner is far more scarce than 21 million Bitcoin, right? I don't have 21 million friends. I'll never have 21 million friends. Maybe, and like, right? It's like, so my point is that to be like, we are still so early to Bitcoin. I was thinking about this the other day. People all the time are like, oh, Luke, I'm too late to Bitcoin. I only have 10 Bitcoin. I only have 0.1 Bitcoin. I only have whatever, right? People feel like they're too late. Yeah, whatever. No, like seriously, I get it all the time. People, no matter, it's the funny thing with human psychology is that no matter how much people have, they feel like they're always too late because they could have had more, right? And that's
Well, Luke, help me with the math. But Sailor said 13 million. So what's 13 million?
130 million?
10?
Yeah.
And that person doesn't feel
no,
like
that's what I'm saying. It's all psychological. Yeah.
I'm joking.
No, I'm dead serious. At work, when I do a Bitcoin advisor, I see this all the time. People feel like they're too late to Bitcoin, and so they don't self-custody it properly, and then they realize, oh crap, I'm not too late. I am early. I should take care of this properly, right? So anyway, that's a side note. But as far as the relationships go, we're so early to Bitcoin that probably every single person that has ever posted daily on Twitter or X in Bitcoin world, like probably Michael Saylor has read at least one of your tweets, right? Probably Adam Back has read at least one of your tweets, right? It's like we're so early to Bitcoin. The niche is so small. And this is a very brief window where you can establish relationships with these people who I firmly believe will become historical figures. And that's just fun. Like, I love it because I get to interact with them, and they love it because, like, they want to interact. Like all these Bitcoiners, they want to interact with the other people that were trailblazers, right? And so anyway, yes, I get what you mean, Jeff, that 100 tickets to this private island aren't as scarce as 20 million Bitcoin, but at the same time, I think to a certain extent it really is. This is a brief period in Bitcoin's history where we're so early that like you can say in 20 years, yeah, I was on like myself, an example. You mentioned Jeff Booth. We're hoping he's going to be able to get to this event. He may or may not. There's nothing official there, but in Telluride last year, he and I went to a very similar event to this, and it was the same thing. And playing a guitar, right? Last week I was fly fishing with James Lapps, right? It's like those kinds of stories just aren't, I don't think, going to be nearly as possible because myself, you, Angelo, you, Jeff, and probably many of the people even watching this show right now, as people passively in this conversation, like these are the future trailblazers of the 2030s and 2040s, right? These are the future business moguls and celebrities of the future, right? And so like time is an increasingly scarce resource among all these people, myself and you watching included. And so yeah, it's more scarce, but at the same time, or it's less scarce, but at the same time, I think it kind of is more scarce. So anyway, that's my little point.
Luke, you're right. An analogy would be being able to hang out on a private island with, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Tim Cook, and and Larry Ellison, like in the early days, because that's the stage we're at. And if we are right with our Bitcoin thesis, that's
Right,
exactly how
definitely.
it's going to
So,
be.
so anyway, this is why I'm excited for this event because I think this is kind of innovative of the direction it's going. I mean, like I mentioned before, I've been very grateful to go to a lot of conferences that are a wide variety of the kind of conferences, but this is the only one I'm aware of that there's an island involved. And so to be, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, maybe in Dubai, I don't know, but I'm yet to be aware of another one and this is going to be a really, really good one. And the other thing too is the timing. Like, I think it's crazy awesome. This is going to be in October 2025. I mean, hello, bull market, maybe top signal. I don't know, but no, really, it's going to be a time of massive excitement, and there'll be a lot to talk about. I'm sure a year from now, and I think it's going to be really, really great. So, Angela, what are some of the camp activities people can expect? And I know Jeff already mentioned some of them, the obvious ones: boating, kayak, campfire. What are some of the other things people can expect when they click the link below and buy a ticket today? What can they expect?
Yeah, so to your point, Luke, we want to be, there's two things that are true here that intersect with answering your question. One is because we're a little late in the season, right? Because it's October and things have cooled down a little bit. Some of it is very weather dependent, right? October on Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire can be about hot cider around the campfire, or it could be about Kool-Aid around the campfire, depending upon whether on the temperature. So some of that stuff is going to be weather dependent, but and some of it will be on, to your earlier point, the demographics of the people who come and what do they want to do, right? So fortunately, the island can offer so much. I mean, if the weather is cooperative, we're out there water skiing, we're tubing, we're sailing, and tipping over the sunfishes and falling in the water. If it's a little bit cooler than that, then it's more about taking the island. The sandy island has a ferry associated with the island. It's beloved by the people who go there all the time. The Big Sandy. I mean, how cute is that? The name of the boat. And it can be taking the boat out for a sunset cruise and looking at the foliage and catching the catching the sunset. If it's with the crafting that Jeff mentioned it's for the kids. I got to be honest with you. A lot of the adults love the crafting too. It's all kinds of stuff. It's leather work. It's silver working. It's a little bit to my dismay. Tie dye is enormous on Sandy Island. People love it. It's not my thing personally, but tie dyeing is an event on that island. People, they're all different designs and crazy stuff. So the crafting is actually more of a whole full family thing than just the kids. And we're thinking about, we haven't gotten this far. I'm hesitant to bring it up, but a lot of people who have the model in their head of the traditional kids camp that they loved when they were kids also have the model in their head of of like a color war, you know, like a kids
Yes, we've
camp
talked
color
about that.
war. And so we're toying around with ideas for how that might work for Bitcoin, a Bitcoin specific, family friendly.
Shoot, can you imagine if it's just
Color.
all orange?
So
That'd be funny. But yeah, so yeah, thanks, Angela. I didn't know about the silver working. That's awesome. But yeah, so again, a lot of the specifics are yet to be determined, and a lot of it, like you guys are saying, because we have the optionality, we're going to cater to what the people want. Which, of course, we're not going to know that right now. We'll know that over the course of the next 2, 6, 8 months or so, what people actually want. But the beauty is that it's all going to be fun. It's all going to be great, and people can do what they want, and you get to do it with really awesome
yeah.
people whom you've heard in your headphones for 500 hours and all these different kinds of podcasts. So Jeff, I know we don't want to give all the juicy details away, but we have over a dozen very likely speakers that are very interested in coming to this, and I know we can't mention all the names, but I know we could probably mention some of the names just to give people a taste of the speakers we've lined up, and they're really good speakers. So anyway, Jeff, tell us about who are the kinds of people. Obviously, I'm going. Angela, you're going. Jeff, you're going. Obviously, a lot of people from New England are going, but all across America, and a couple international too, are coming to this event. Jeff, we've talked. Angela's talked about what we can expect when we're there. Who are the other people we're expecting to join us on this venture?
Right. Um, so right now, we probably are talking with 10 to 12 high level educators and podcasters. Um, we can freely say Mark Moss has committed to come to the island. Um, BJ Dichter has committed to come to the island. Michelle Weekly has committed to come to the island. Uh, we're hoping David Foley and Larry Lepard are going to attend. We've had talks with them. Um,
James Lavish.
we're working on it's so yeah. Thank you, James Lavish. So we're working on many other great speakers. It's so early. It's hard to get everything tied up right now. I would just say stay tuned and pay attention to our tweets or our broadcasts or our YouTubes as to what's happening. But if that's the baseline of speakers and there's only 100 tickets, I mean that's
Right.
already a
Yeah,
huge
so it is very
win.
early and lots of speakers are yet to come, but to me, like, that's not a con at all. Like, we already have a bunch of awesome speakers that are like genuinely excited to go. When I called when I didn't call him,
Yeah.
but I was sitting next to James, and when I invited him, we talked about, like, he was so excited. So the fact that we already have this many people that are willing to go, we have at least 2 to 3 times that many that are very interested in going, and that they're actually excited to go. I think that's a huge win. And as we release more details, and as we kind of formulate this into a more concrete idea with the speakers and what's going on, of course, I'm expecting prices are probably going to go up. So we should probably talk about how can people confirm their seat to get to go, because right now there are a lot of people in Bitcoin that would like to go probably to this, especially as things get firmed up. But even more important is that probably in the next year, between now and October 2025, as probably everyone watching this probably agrees, Bitcoin number is probably going to go up, right? Bitcoin price is probably going to go up. And I think people should really prepared that the demand um, for any Bitcoin conference, but in particular this one, is probably going to rise dramatically, right? Like, if we literally believe Bitcoin sentiment is going to go up by a factor of 5 to 10x as a result of maybe a doubling in new eyeballs looking at Bitcoin price, like, that's a massive shift, right? And so I don't know who is better to ask this, you either Angela or Jeff, but to tee it off to you, basically the way we're trying to do this is we're trying to be extremely fair, right? Yes, we need to make money on this because renting a private island is not cheap, and flying out a bunch of speakers is not cheap.
Mm.
So we are going to charge for this, obviously, right? But at the same time, we want to do everything we can to give the best opportunity to the people that deserve it the most. And the people that deserve it the most are the people that are watching this show right now, that have been in Bitcoin a while. They've survived the bear market, right? We want to give people that are paying attention right now when sentiment is low the best opportunities. So ticket prices are very low right now, and they're going to go up. We don't know exactly how much they're going to go up, but I think they're going to go up a lot. And so, Angelo, Jeff, I don't know who wants to take the wheel from there, but what is your perspective when it comes to this? Like, why should people get the ticket now?
I'll just quick. Well, I'll quickly say, as you know, our initial block of tickets, which we're calling the Genesis block, is going to be the cheapest ticket that we're going to offer. And we've just divulged top-notch participants, and for the value we're going to offer this ticket at, that is a no-brainer, complete no-brainer. We're losing money on the first block of tickets because we want to build momentum, get people interested, and give early, let's say, early adopters the ability to partake. So I'll just say the Genesis block will be our cheapest ticket, and if that once that gets announced, I would click on it and buy it immediately because the prices will be going up. And as we continue to announce more and more speakers, and I can't say much, but we have some amazing potential speakers in addition to what we've already mentioned coming to the end. The tickets are going to go continue to go up. So I don't know if Angela wants that.
So as it firms up, and so as we're recording this, the website isn't live yet, but I suspect by the time you're hearing this,
if you're watching this conversation, the Genesis tickets are out, the tickets are live. You can click the link in the description below and buy them. Right. So of course we're recording this. So,
and the link will be. It's we went.
Yes, we haven't even said the name yet
for this thing.
Camp Nakamoto.
We haven't said the name yet. Camp Nakamoto, and it's Camp Nakamoto NH for New Hampshire.com. Camp Nakamoto NH.com. And what again, as we've talked about it here, there's been some stuff that are still items that are in flux. But at Camp Nakamoto NH.com, we'll always have the most current information, the most current agenda for what the events are going to be, the current ticket prices. To Jeff's point, we're doing everything we can to make it accessible to people who are in early, but there's only 100 spots, and yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
You're muted.
Oh, you're muted.
What I like to say is, you're going to pay the price you deserve when you buy this ticket, just like Bitcoin. You get the price you deserve. So. Buy early. I mean, I wish I bought Bitcoin when it was under
Camp Nakamoto tickets at the price you deserve. That's exactly
right. I wish I bought it $1, but I paid $69,000 for it. So I would suggest buying the Genesis ticket before we get to Deuteronomy, which is the last part. I just made that.
That's funny.
I would suggest Genesis ticket.
That's great. Love it. Yeah. Now, I guess it's worth clarifying that we are trying to install a bit of FOMO here because this is your last chance to be a part of this event, this cycle. Like 2026, 2027, if we assume 4-year cycle continues, which it may not, but if we assume it continues, the next one's going to be the bear market, right? So this is your last chance to reserve your spot for an event this awesome at this current level of adoption, right? A year from now, the adoption is going to be way higher. Demand is going to be way higher. These events are going to be way bigger, a lot less private and intimate. And then even next bear markets and future bull markets, obviously. So this is not your last chance for Camp Nakamoto, most likely. We're assuming that if this year is a success, which I firmly believe it will be, there will be more events in future years. And that's partially why we are letting ticket prices inflect dramatically upwards as a function of demand. Because right now, Jeff, Angelo, myself, and other people that are behind the scenes on this event are really sinking a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of capital because of our passion into this project. And the hope is that with the excess proceeds from the event, from, again, ticket prices inflecting upwards as a function of exponential demand, hopefully then we can have the funds to continue this event into the future and in future bear markets when obviously things are going to be tight in bear markets as they typically are, right? So anyway, hopefully give a bit more context there that this isn't your last chance. This is why we're letting ticket prices fluctuate in the free market. But at the end of the day, I think this is the first time only happens once, right? The first year of this only happens once, right? And to say that you were there and you had a s'more with Larry Lepard, and you wrote a tube with James Lavish, and that you drank wine with Mark Moss on a boat tour of the New Hampshire fall color countryside, right? It's like those kinds of, you'll only be able to say I was there first once, right? So anyway, I don't know if you guys have anything else to share. And by buying, there's a lot more I know I could say, but I know we can't. So,
But just one quick thing I'd like to add, all that stuff is 100% accurate, but it's really the real value, compelling value is the time that you're going to have for those 4 days, just being around all of these great people. I mean, that is invaluable. I mean,
right.
that's really invaluable. So I think, we focus on all the other stuff, but your actual time on the island, hanging out with your Bitcoiners you follow, people other Bitcoiners, is just going to be absolutely amazing and
Right.
unparalleled. I
Right.
don't know where else you're going to get that experience. So don't just think monetary wise. I know us Bitcoiners think like that, and we watch every penny or cent we spend, but there's no guarantees in this world. So
Yeah,
let's get
again,
there and have a great
tangible
time.
versus intangible, right? People are willing to spend a lot of tangible cash to get 5 minutes with their favorite speaker at a big Bitcoin conference, right? So, what are people going to be willing to pay for an afternoon with 3, 4, 5 of their favorite Bitcoiners, and able to make new friends, new business connections, have new business ideas? I think people are going to be willing to pay a lot, and more importantly, like you said, Jeff, life is short. We all are waiting for hyper Bitcoinization, but the reality is that it's going to take a while, and we got to enjoy the ride along the way. And hopefully, this event is one of the big pit stops for people enjoying the ride. So
Right.
I think we sufficiently covered that. Again, everyone watching, if this interests you, please, all three of us are begging you, don't procrastinate this, right? Yes, in our own interest because we're trying to get momentum going, but also for you because we're trying to do everything we can to sell tickets. Like Jeff said earlier, we're selling some tickets even at a loss because we want to give you, the early adopters in this idea, the best benefit, and as a thank you from us to being involved with that, right? So please, if this interests you, do not procrastinate. Click the link in the description below under the show where you can buy your ticket right now, or talking about myself here at my own website, lukebtc.com. If you join my Retire in Bitcoin community, you get invited to all the events that I'm helping organize. Like I said, I was just at an event back in Montana last week. Right now, I'm planning an event in El Salvador in November. So there's lots of events, a lot of great ones. None of the others have a private island. But if you want to join that Retire in Bitcoin community, you can find my stuff at lukebtc.com. And if you just want to get this event, you want to lock it in right now, link in the description below. Like Angelo said, also the website, campnakamotonh.com. But anyway, so please consider doing that now. But as we wrap up here, I know we all got to go. We've got a lot more stuff to plan. But let's maybe wrap up a little bit. I'm curious, you guys, what are you looking forward to as your favorite moment on the island, right? It can be an event with somebody. It can be an activity. It can be a lesson learned. Like you guys personally, I know we've talked about this a little bit off camera, but I'm just curious, what do you guys think is the thing you personally are looking forward to the most, right? Let's say November next year, you look back a month later after the event. What are you going to be like, wow, that moment was incredible?
I'll let Angela go since he's a veteran, a camp veteran.
Well,
He
it's
knows
funny.
best.
My answer, because I know, right? I can tell you, there's no question in my mind what that moment is. Um, and it's funny because when we were talking earlier about all the different things to do at camp, we actually didn't mention this thing, and this is my single favorite thing to do at camp. And so there will be a moment that weekend where the campfire will be lit. There'll be a bunch of us sitting in Adirondack chairs around the campfire. I will have a cigar in my hand, and I'll be sitting around a campfire with a bunch of Bitcoiners, and we'll be talking Bitcoin, and the sun will be going down, and the fire will be raging, and maybe I'll have a scotch in the other hand. And so my favorite thing to do at camp, ironically, with all that talk, color wars and tennis and kayaks and sailing and tubing, hanging out. Hanging out's my favorite thing to do at camp, hanging out around a campfire. And so that's the moment I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, mine's sort of split. one, I would want to make sure that this is a successful event, that everyone is. So I'll be stressed about that, that that it's running smoothly, everyone's having a good time. But that's as far as sort of the organizer.
Yeah.
But personally, I just think it's the interactions and sort of the bonds that you build uh, during these events. I mean, so like Luke, you've been to a couple of events. Greg Foss, Larry Lepard, David Foley. For years, they've been coming to my events and helping support, and the relationships I built with them is mostly built upon. I mean, we go back and forth on Twitter and stuff, but it's built upon our in-person interactions. So this is just an amazing opportunity to sort of build your life with your Bitcoin network, and it can't be done just on Twitter. So I just think the bonds that you build are really what I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I would love to be sitting around a campfire and making Lavish do a couple shots. So we'll see what happens. And one more thing, guys. What goes on the island stays at the island.
Yeah.
I was joking.
Yeah, I think to answer my own question, I think probably what I'm looking forward to most is unknown, right? I mean, I know a lot of those people were mentioned. I know you guys already, but I'm excited for the unknown. Like, I've never done a color war. Maybe we'll do that, maybe not. I'm excited to make new friends, right? And how do you make new friends unless you meet new people, right? So anyway, that's what I'm excited for. So, guys, thank you so much for the work you're doing off camera. Thanks for coming on the show here today. Again, everyone, if this interests you, October 2025, I know it's a ways away, but we're going to build up a lot of hype for this, and the hype is going to be real, and there's going to be a lot of FOMO with it. So please, just like Bitcoin, get off zero, get your tickets. Link in the description below. You can buy your tickets right now. You don't have to right now. You can wait a week. You can wait a month, but prices are going up again soon as a function of demand for the event. And I think all three of us are pretty bullish on the demand here. So anyway, thanks everyone for watching to the end here. If you've watched the whole thing, it probably means this is something you should think about. So Angelo, Jeff, thanks guys.
Thank you very much, Luke. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers.